Hey everybody, this is Andy Malbuff, and this is going to be a short video on how to initiate an activity for students from Desmos Activity Builder. So the first thing I want to talk about is where do we begin this? Well, up here at the top of the screen, the URL for the Desmos Activity Builder site is teacher.desmos.com. So going here, which we will call the home page, the home site, I want to make sure I'm signed in. So I'm already over here on the right. I'm signed in. If you're not, I would recommend you sign in. If you haven't got an account yet, create one. They're free for teachers. And this way you can track various things that you work with and create. Now, from this home page, I've got over here on the left various areas that I can go from here. Okay, it's a menu of sorts. And what I want to do is select an activity to do. So I can choose something from one of my collections, or I can choose something that I've been working on that maybe I created myself. And that's actually what I want to do first here. So I want to pick something I've been working on myself. So under custom, I'm going to go to graphing factored polynomials. I just created this a few days ago. Now, up here at the top of the page is the title. And you can see already under activity sessions, I've already run this activity with 3 of my Algebra 2 classes. You can see how many students were involved, so that'll tell you that you had some kids absent. You can also see dates and times. And if you wanted to revisit those activities, you can go into the teacher dashboard for each class and see individual student responses, etc. But let's say I want to assign this to some new classes. Well, I have a choice here under Assign. This little drop-down menu has 2 choices. It says Assign to your classes or Single Session Code. The Assign to your classes works with Google Classroom. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll be back here in a second, but I'm going to go over here on the left to Manage Classes. This is a fairly new feature for Desmos Activity Builder. If you're a Google Classroom user, like I am, you can sync your Google Classroom with Desmos Activity Builder. So under Manage Your Classes, these are the 6 classes I've already synced from Classroom. And I can click and see their activity history. I can see how recently I've synced in case, I have an enrollment change. I add a kid or drop a kid, I'll want to sync there. But what I can do is I can attach activities to these. So now I want to go back to my custom, and I want to pick that activity out that I want to assign in Classroom. So I'm picking graphing factored polynomials. Again, I've already done it recently with 3 of my classes, but let's say I want to assign it to other classes. So I can go here under Assign to your classes, and you can see from this screen that it won't let me check the Algebra 2s because this activity's already been assigned to those Algebra 2s. But let's say I want to put it in I'm just going to pick one course, my 5th hour pre-calculus class. Well, your posting preferences. The first time you do this, I suggest looking in here, how do you want it to post to Classroom? I choose to have mine go in immediately as opposed to a draft. Do you want it to go in immediately? Do you not want students to see it right away? I choose to have students see it right away. And if I don't want them to start it, I'll just pause it. I'll show you that a little bit later. So I'm going to close this dialog box out. And oops, I closed out assigning too. So let me go back to this. Custom, graphing factored polynomials. And I want to assign it to my 5th hour course. So I'm going to choose Assign. Now it says already assigned here. I'm going to jump over to my Classroom. So I have an extension up here, and I'm going to go to my 5th hour course. And under classwork, you'll see the most recent item is that Desmos Activity Builder activity. It'll come in as an assignment, and if I wish to put a grade with that, if I wish to put a due date, if any of those types of Google Classroom choices, if I wish to do any of that. Now, I might want to make this go into a particular topic, so I might edit it. I might want to add a topic, something that we're currently in. And so when I save that, that will now be the most recent item in this particular topic that we're studying right now. We're doing complex numbers and transformations. So this activity does not apply, but here's how my kids can access this. So selecting there, this is from a student perspective. This is what the kids would see. Now, I'm back at the activity page, graphing factored polynomials. I don't want this to be here any longer. This is not relevant to me anymore. So I can go ahead and archive this. I've already taken it out of Classroom. It basically unassigns it. And so if I want to assign it not through Classroom, let's say I'm in the classroom face to face with my kids, and I decide, okay, I'm going to run this activity spur of the moment, and I'm just going to have them get the information from my smartboard or projector in the front of the room. I can assign a single session code. Now selecting there, this creates basically a join code. This says for this session, I have 0 students. Here's when I created it. And now if I click the dashboard, this is something that I would just drag right over from my desktop computer monitor onto the smartboard. My kids know to go into student.desmos.com, and here's their 6-digit join code. Now, there's also another way we can initiate an activity besides using Classroom, besides using a single session join code, and that is we can embed it in an LMS, a learning management system, such as Moodle, such as Google Sites, such as Blackboard. Now, I use Google Sites myself, and I used to use Moodle, so I guess I'm a little bit familiar with how those might work. So those are what I'm going to show you how we can embed in. So what I want to do first is I want to get a link for this particular activity. So this one I just created, this single session join code, I can go over here to student link. Basically, it brings the same screen up we saw earlier, but now instead of just the 6-digit join code, I want to copy the entire URL. So that's copied now, and I can go over here. I'm opening a new tab, and I'm going to go to our Moodle site. Our particular school system had a Moodle site several years ago. I haven't used it in years, so this is going to be a little foggy for me. I went ahead and signed myself in a few minutes ago, so I'm signed in right there. And let's say I wanted to put this activity in Algebra 2. And I will have to go over here and turn my editing mode on. And now I'm going to put this under Algebra 2 Overview. Okay, I got a whole bunch of old stuff in here. I'm going to put it under Algebra 2 Overview under Demos and Trials. So what I'm going to do is add an activity or a resource. So in choosing that, I'm going to go down to the very bottom and I'm going to choose a URL. Now again, I don't know if there's a more recent version of Moodle this is all I have to look at right now. I'm going to add a URL, which basically going along the breadcrumb trail up here in Algebra 2, under Algebra 2 Overview, I'm going to add a new page. Basically, that's what that is. And so I'm going to call this Sample Desmos Activity Builder Activity. That's a lot of activities in there. And I'm going to enter the external URL. Basically, I'm just going to paste that in. Okay, you can add any bells and whistles in here that you want. I'm just going to click Save and Return to Course, and we'll take a peek at it here. I'm going to turn my editing off so we can view it from a viewer perspective. And this particular URL is right here. If I click on it, it'll take me out of Moodle, but into this particular student version. I'll keep my same name in there, and you can see here the student now has access to all of the pages of that activity. I can also put it into a different kind of LMS like Google Sites. Since we're a Google school with the suite of tools available, I've started using Sites lately. So what I want to do is, again, show you I've already copied this URL right here. I'm just going to go ahead and copy it again. And in a new tab, I'm going to go to I'll go to Algebra 2, my Algebra 2 sites that I use, that my students use. So this takes me in as a teacher, and so I can edit on this particular page. So I'm just going to scroll down to the bottom here Whoops, except this took me to not my home page. So I'm going to put this on my home page. And at the bottom of the page is where I play with stuff. So I'm at the very bottom where I have some open room here. I'm going to click wherever I, excuse me, wherever I can that's open. I'm going to go to Insert, and I'm going to Embed. And here's where your join or your URL gets pasted in. Here's the URL I just copied. I'm pasting it in, and I want to choose Preview. This is going to take me to the student perspective. So I'm going to select that version to go in, and I'll choose Insert, and you'll see here it'll insert it for you as a big block. And unfortunately, there's no good way to describe it. This little link down here doesn't do anything for us. So what I also like to do is add a text box. And I can drag that text box to associate with just this particular activity. And I can call this whatever title I want. I'm going to call it graphing factored polynomials. I can do whatever formatting I want. I know you're not interested in that. So when I'm all set with that, let's take a look at what that looks like. So I'm going to go up here to preview mode. And this will be from a student or parent perspective, anybody that has access to this site. And I'm on the home page here. So if I scroll down to the very bottom, here's my activity and the title. Now, if I just click on the activity, it'll take me to a new page, and it'll open up a new tab. And here's that same activity from a student perspective. It says continue. It recognizes I've been in there already. So I'm going to continue. And you can see here that from a student perspective, that same activity is available to them after being embedded in an LMS. So taking you back to the activity page here, the original one, if I choose View Dashboard, and I get rid of this right here from the teacher perspective, I'm seeing a list of students here who have participated in the student version of this thus far. And you'll see my first and last name there because I went in both Moodle and in Google Sites. So I hope this was helpful in initiating an activity for your classes via either Classroom or single session code or an LMS. Thanks.